Do you want to read or watch something inspiring? Hang Tough. No, seriously, Hang Tough is the name of the documentary I want you to watch. I'll explain on the other side of the introduction.
In a world of incompetent bosses, micromanagers, and petty tyrants, you are listening to The Leadersmith. Now, here is your host, Darren Gerdes.
So as I was saying in my introduction, I want you to watch Hang Tough. Hang Tough is a documentary based on the HBO miniseries Band of Brothers. It's talking about Dick Winters, who was the commander of Easy Company in the 101st Airborne, before it was called the 101st Airborne, in World War II. And Dick Winters was a phenomenal leader. I mean, when you read Band of Brothers, you can see that. When you read his book, Beyond Band of Brothers, which I've read as well, or other books about that, you find the same thing. The Band of Brothers, by the way, comes from Henry V, and quote, "We few, we happy few, we band of brothers, for he today that sheds his blood with me shall be my brother." That's where the quote comes from itself. So he wrote Beyond Band of Brothers. One of his lieutenants, Buck Compton, wrote Call of Duty. Anything that you can read about these guys, it's just inspiring how amazing these guys were. And, you know, the greatest generation. Well, you can see it. So Dick Winters was the commander of Easy Company, and he was promoted after on D-Day, and I'll explain how that worked. But he used to go around saying "Hang tough" to his men, and it wasn't just a saying, but it got repeated because it had more force to it coming from him, and the strength that came behind his leadership. And I'll talk about it in a little bit. So Winters was a Mennonite from Pennsylvania. In his background, he joined. He joined the Army before Pearl Harbor, so he had an advantage because by the time that Pearl Harbor hit, he was already into the system. I think he was an officer by the time Pearl Harbor came around, or at least he was an officer who was giving basic training, because he had entered months before other people. And, he volunteered for the newly established Airborne Regiment, which was not a thing before World War II. Remember, I mean, we're only flying in World War I for the first time. And so he volunteered for this because he said, quote, "If you're going to war, I want to go with the best." And so, yeah, that's some thinking. So they went to Camp Toccoa and learned how to do this airborne thing. They're going to be dropped behind enemy lines, and they knew that was how it was going to be. Episode 1 of Band of Brothers, by the way, really shows this well. His commander was a gentleman named Herbert Sobel, who was a very unfair disciplinarian. He was from a city. He was always lost with a map. He was doing dumb things. This is a quote now. "He was always doing dumb things, trying to be a leader," said Winters. But Winters was different. He said, "The first example you set is that you must spend your time with the men." He's exactly right. Herbert Sobel, on the other hand, was always looking for an excuse to turn the company over to Winters. It was just two very different views of leadership. And if you see Band of Brothers, you'll see this play out. And he also said, this is Winters again, also said, "Set an example, let them follow you, so that when you give an order, they don't hesitate." How many of our leaders today would you say that about? I mean, think about the leaders that you followed in the past, people that have just been positionally in power in your organizations. And I'm not sure that I could say that of all of them. I'm certain I couldn't say that of all of them. Many of them occupy a position and it went to their heads rather than were trying to help me. Okay, at any rate, episode 2, Band of Brothers, fleshes out what happens after that. After that, they're dropped into Normandy behind the Fortress Europe, as men are swarming up on the beach on D-Day. They're dropped behind enemy lines to knock out the guns. Okay, so it's on D-Day. Winters finds himself as acting commander of Easy Company. This is because Sobel's replaced by a gentleman named Lieutenant Meehan. Meehan's plane is shot down, so voila, he is now the commander. And he lands on the ground without even a rifle. The reason for that, they're dropped 5 miles away. It's very chaotic. They're dropped 5 miles off target of where they're supposed to be. The Good Idea Fairy thought, hey, let's strap them down with another 80-pound bag that will have all kinds of extra equipment. And when they did that, all their gear was lost as well, including their rifle. So he drops on the ground. He has nothing more than a knife. He assembles his men around him, and then he still has to get to his objective, which is to take out a battery, a gun emplacement that's bombing the beaches. So if they don't actually accomplish this goal, more of our soldiers will die on the beaches because these heavy guns are just shelling the beaches. They're all zeroed in. He takes 14 men, 12 of those were from his company, Easy Company, and they attack this gun emplacement. It's guarded by 50 Germans. And it is, I understand that it is still taught as a textbook assault in the Army at West Point today. I could be wrong about that, but that is what I've been told. By the end of the war, he's promoted to commander of the battalion, promoted to a major, and this talks about his life, but it also talks about the French families that are affected. I mean, they're living at this place. It's called Brecourt Manor, and they're essentially prisoners to the Germans or under the thumb of the Germans there. And this family, like, not adopts him, but I mean they treat him like he's their own son. They're very kind to him. They want to set up this monument, and much of what's going on in this documentary, Hang Tough, is a monument being created in his honor, and it shows, talks about the sculptor and talks about the French family and why they wanted to do this and that kind of thing. Okay, so you see the unveiling of the monument created in his honor, and it's a really powerful monument. You can feel the leadership. You can feel the determination when you're looking at this monument. Anyway, so Winter's leadership philosophy, he says at some point through the video, this great quote, "I don't want to take from the men. I want the men to feel that I'm giving to them, that I'm there when they need help, when they need advice. I'm there to make sure that they're treated fairly." How many of our leaders think that way? Like that is their primary objective, but isn't that the kind of leader that you want to follow? Okay, so I urge you to get a hold of this video. It's on Amazon Prime. I'll link it below in the show notes. So watch this video, watch Band of Brothers, read the book Band of Brothers, read the other books about it. It will all encourage you to be the kind of leader that you want to follow. Okay, so let's stop here with the quote for contemplation. On the statue, the leadership statue memorializing Dick Winters, and oh, by the way, he didn't even want to have, it just about him. He wanted it to be about everybody that was involved in it. So when you look at the statue, you're seeing all the different, the statue is standing on these discs, and each of the discs represents each of the different divisions that were involved in the conflict that day. That's the kind of guy that he was. On the statue, it says this is a quote. It says, "Wars do not make great men, but they do bring out greatness in good men." Richard Winters, Easy Company, 506 Parachute Infantry Regiment, 101st Airborne Division. And I think that's wonderful because that's right. I think that difficulty brings out the best in good people and brings out the worst in bad people. Riches do the same thing. Power does the same thing. They amplify what you already are. And so anyway, I'm going to stop there because I'm running out of time. But if you like this episode, you can read more. I will watch the videos. I will post again Hang Tough and Band of Brothers and the book. And so I hope that you will take the time to do that. Thank you for your time. Thank you for wanting to be the kind of leader that you would want to follow. Have a good day.